Welcome to the Brain Picker Pro Show, live from Lake Wiley, South Carolina. I'm Larry Goins. Thank you guys so much for watching. As you know, every week we interview a different rock star in real estate, and it's people I know, like, and trust. That's the only people I like to have on, and I've been in this business for about 30 years, been teaching over 15 years, so I've met a lot of people, and I know who I need to have on the show that you can get some really, really, really good content and value from. And today is my good longtime friend. This guy's an auction expert. He's a land expert. He's a passive income expert. He's a world traveler. He's a good friend of mine, and I just love him to death. Please give a warm welcome, Jack Bosch. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, how are you, Larry? I'm excited to be here. Lots of stuff going on. Life is good.
I know. Before we started recording, you and I were talking a little bit about it. You know, as we get older, we want to do things a little bit different and change a little bit and make it more about lifestyle than just out there grinding all the time. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you're able to do that, and myself as well. And why don't you start out and tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right, I'll be happy to. So first of all, you can tell from my accent and that I'm not from North Carolina, South Carolina, or anywhere out there. I'm from Germany originally, so I'm an immigrant to the U.S. I came over here in 1997 to finish my college degree. And I've been in real estate now for 16 years, since the end of, really for like almost 20 years, but 19 years, but successfully in real estate for 16 years. So it took us, I spent the first few years having a job here, dabbling in real estate, trying to figure out how this all works, and finally discovered a method of real estate investing that really very, very, very few people are doing, which basically is real estate without houses, right? It's in essence, I stumbled upon land flipping. Like I realized that you can flip land, you can do everything in land that you can do in houses. You can flip it, you can wholesale it, you can develop it, you can build something on it, you can split it, you can sell it, but very important, you can sell it with seller financing and create cash flow from land without even being subject to like DoddFrank and those kind of stuff. You can, and all the best thing of that is you can do it all without having to deal with houses. So no inspections, no roof repairs, no foundation repairs, no mortgages, no contractors, no tenants, toilets, termites, none of that kind of stuff. So me as coming to the U.S. as a beginning investor, as really having no idea about real estate whatsoever, right. That was a gift from heaven, because I didn't have to learn all these. It was hard. It was hard enough to start learning the real estate terminology and learning how the rules even work in the U.S. And I didn't have to learn on top of it all the terminology and all the things about house flipping and house repairing and all those things having to do with houses. So because on land, there's no houses on it, right? So and then the method we figured out on top of it allows us to get these properties for like 10 cents on the dollar. So it was a way to, so I came into the country, I got my degree, I got a job, I didn't like my job, and we wanted to figure something else out. And land flipping really was the easiest way that we could have ever gotten into real estate, and continues to be.
That is awesome, man. That's awesome. I love it because, you know, just by default, I do some of your strategy, and I'll mention one of those deals here in a little bit. But tell us, what is a typical type of a land deal that you do, Jack?
So a typical kind of land deal is a deal where we go and pick up a piece of land, perhaps usually in the outskirts of town. That's where like most of our deals come from. Like basically, there's a big city. And right where that big city ends, right where it ends is what we call the path of growth, right? Because the city keeps growing, or economy's in a boom, cities are expanding again. Well, if you go out just, as I said, a few miles outside of where the city ends, you are in an area that is desirable because the city is going to eventually get there. And you're also in an area that is much lower cost than in the city. So an acre in the city might be worth $300,000. An acre 5 miles outside of town, outside of the border of the town where the city ends, might only be worth $40,000. So that's kind of our most favorite deal, because you get this kind of $30,000, $40,000 property. And what we specialize in is finding the people who no longer wants those, which is actually in land. There's actually more people out there like that than in houses. So we find those deals, and then we only pay between 5 and 25 cents on the dollar for these deals. So we basically get a deal on the high end like that. Let's say it's worth $40,000. On the high end, we pay $9,000 or $10,000 for it. So let's just say $8,000 would be a good offer on that deal. So we get a $40,000 deal for $8,000 under contract, and then we go flip it like you would flip a house. We go flip it for $20,000, make $12,000 profit, or we go and flip it for $40,000 full market price, or perhaps a slight discount, $35,000, and then ask them to give us like a 20% down payment, like a $7,000, $8,000 down payment, and then get monthly payments, and then do seller financing. The beauty of that is that with the down payment, you almost or often entirely get the money that you pay for the property back. So we paid $8,000, we got a $7,000 or $8,000 down payment. Well, that's about pretty much what we paid for it. So now we have nothing in the deal, and we get monthly payments on the deal. So this is our two ways of doing deals like that, and we do them all from about $10,000 to $100,000 is the kind of value of the properties we focus on.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. I have 3 land deals going on right now. Actually, we've got about 28 houses under contract in our pipeline, and 3 of them are land deals.
Awesome.
Yeah, I typically tell people when I'm on the phone with somebody and we buy all of our stuff over the phone, and we say, look, you know, with these little infill, I call them infill lots. It's just a lot where there's a bunch of 30, 40, 50-year-old houses around it. Nobody's going to want to buy that lot and build a house on. That's what I tell them, right? And because who wants to have a brand new house in 2018 right next to a house that was built in the 30s, right?
Right.
So typically all we can pay you is around 2 to 3 years worth of your tax bill. So if your taxes are $200 a year, we'll give you $600 for the lot. In fact, I'm buying 2 lots right now, side by side. I'm paying $1,200 for both of them.
There we go. That's exactly what you do. And now, as I said, I gave you a high-end example. You take a property worth $20,000. There's plenty of us, including us and our students, that get a deal like that for under $2,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So and then what do you do? That's our second way. Infill lots. We love those. Street full of houses, an empty lot. Depending on the value of those houses, it is actually feasible to build a house on there.
Right.
Or you can also simply sell it to the neighbor for like $10,000 because the neighbor wants to. Actually, he's gotten used to nobody being next to him. They like that nobody's next to him. Right. They want to keep it that way. So they'll buy the lot from you, and just to expand their backyard and to keep the neighbor, keep a house from being built there. And whether cash or seller financing, if you pay $600 for that thing, I mean, you can sell it for $10,000 with a $1,000 down payment and $200 a month or $250 a month for the next 5 years.
Exactly. And and one very, very, very important thing you mentioned a few minutes ago was you don't have to worry about DoddFrank, because many people watching this, about my training, Filthy Riches. I buy these little cheap houses for $5,000 or $10,000 and seller finance them for 30, 40, 50,000. You don't have to worry about that with your land deals, do you, Jack?
No, you don't, because DoddFrank was designed for under the, I think is Regulation Z or something like that called, it applies only to what's called dwellings. And a dwelling is a residential structure from 1 to 4 units. It does, I understand, include fixed mobile homes, but it does not include land, because land is not a dwelling. Right? So land is just land. So it doesn't fall into that category. And also there's an IRS loophole that doesn't fall into what's called the dealer status either. And actually in the housing world, you're subject to the dealer status if you flip a lot of houses.
Wait a minute. Tell us about that, because I had a huge tax bill a few years ago.
I bet.
A few years ago, I'm like, man, because my accountant wouldn't let me take the installment sale because I did so many of them.
Exactly right.
So tell us
ahead.
about that.
Yeah. So the dealer status basically says that if you are flipping a piece of land, and that if the dealer status says if you're flipping real estate and you're doing seller financing, and then if you're a dealer is somebody who just flips a lot of property. So you're a dealer, Larry. I'm a dealer. There's no way around it. But if you do a lot of real estate deals, you're a dealer. But if you're flipping houses and you get to this installment sale method, and let's just say you buy a property for $600 and you go sell it for $20,000, and you're getting now let's say a $600 down payment. So you've really not made any money on this deal yet. But what they're saying is, if you're subject to the dealer if you're a dealer, you cannot use the installment sale method. So in other words, what they're saying is, well, you made bought it for $600, sold it for $20,000. You made a $19,400 profit on that deal, and whether or not you receive the money today, you got to pay us taxes on it today. And that's why your tax bill was so high, because your CPA wouldn't allow you to basically pay only taxes on the money that you've received. Well, there's a loophole for land that basically says that if you buy a piece of land and you sell it and you don't materially change it in the middle, so you don't build something on it, you don't change its zoning, you don't do things like that, but you just basically flip it, right? And that's what we're doing. 4,000 times we have done this already in the last 16 years. We flipped 4,000 properties, 4,000 pieces of land. So when you do that, you're exempt from the dealer status. In other words, in this case, if you buy this property for $600, sell it for $20,000, and you get, let's say, $300 a month in cash flow from that deal, or $400 a month in cash flow, after 1 year, you received $4,800. Well, you only pay taxes on the profit portion of the $4,800 after subtracting your regular business expenses. So anything that you can legally write off, you write off against it. And then let's say you might have left over now $1,500, so you pay taxes on $1,500 a year, not on the full $19,000 that you haven't even received. That's obviously a game changer, because in the first case, when you have to perhaps send out $6,000 to the IRS that you did not receive yet. In the second case, you pay taxes on $1,500, which you have received. So it's a much easier kind of scenario. So,
man, that's huge. You know what, Jack? I never knew there was a loophole for the installment sale versus dealer status for land. I never knew that.
Yeah, nobody ever knows that. I talked to some of the top CPAs in the country. They didn't know that, but my CPA ended up finding it somewhere dug into some provision from the 1980s that the builders, when there was a crash in real estate and the builders were tied up with a lot of land, and they got Congress to insert that kind of sentence somewhere in the tax code, and nobody has ever challenged it ever since.
That's great, man. That's huge. So tell us a little bit about how do you go about finding these land deals?
Right. So we do direct mail, and we do direct mail like everyone else does, with the difference that our direct mail gets a huge response rate. So here's the situation on the response rate. So we're like, houses have an inherent value in themselves of that you can take and you can rent it, even if it's or rent it or sell it, even if it's to a handyman. Right. Somebody's going to be willing to take that property and make it livable and then go live in it. In land, you can't really live on it. So what had happened is people bought it 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago as a financial investment in many cases, because they're expecting the value to go up. And depending, it could have been that they bought it just on the outskirts of town, but the city grew this way instead of that way. And It's just now starting to grow this way. So basically, because of that, so the city grew east instead of west, and their property is on the west side of town. So because of that, their property might have never gone up a lot in value, but it's still not worthless. It's worth 20 grand or 30 grand or something like that. It sits there, and the city might be now growing westwards. So it's in the path of growth. But to them, they're like, you know what? I've had it for 30 years. I don't want it anymore. I've been paying property taxes off for 30 years. That's a big one. They don't like paying property taxes on this because land, when you hold on to it, does not cash flow. Right. So, however, who in the world, therefore, would want to own such a piece of land? Right? Well, it's people that, first of all, if it's in the outskirts of town, it's people that want to go and live a little bit more rural, but be close to the city. Also, people that perhaps are close to retirement, but unfortunately don't have much money to retire. So they're able to buy these lots from us right now with as we just said, a $30,000 lot that we bought for $4,000. They give us a $4,000 down payment and $300 a month. They have that kind of money. They pay it off over the next 10 years. Then they go put the mobile home on it or build a small house on it. And now they have pretty much a free and clear lot with a free and clear property or mobile home on it, and they live a dignified retirement, right? So people like doing that, or it's financial investors that buy these properties that now see, hey, the city is growing westwards, so let me go ahead outside of the city, let me put some of the money out of the stock market, pull it out of the stock market, put it in there. So they buy these properties, hold on to them, and when the city does approach, they're very successful. They're making a ton of money, and a lot of our customers have made a ton of money right now in the market run up. So there's lots of people that want these properties, but there's also lots of people, even more than in the house worlds we're finding, that are willing to let them go because they're sick and tired of paying these property taxes. They have inherited them for all this kind of reasons. So what we do is we send them a direct mail. So we figure out who they are. We figure out, we have a list of criteria and a priority list of who we go after first, second, third, fourth, and so on. And then we find those people that have bought these properties 30, 40 years ago, that live out of state, that don't care about these properties. In many cases, they inherited them even from their parents, and they don't want to pay the property taxes. They don't want to care about these properties. They don't want to keep paying for cleanup fees and stuff like that, like mowing the grass and stuff like that. They don't want to do that, particularly if it's an infill lot. So they just want to get out. So when we send out the direct mail piece, we have a very specific direct mail piece that we've developed over years and years. They literally get us, in many cases, a 10+% response rate on our letter.
Wow, that's huge.
That is huge. I know.
That's huge. 10%. Listen, when you're doing direct mail for houses, if you're getting a 10% response rate, it's because you're getting a lot of hate calls, right?
Yeah, no, we barely get any hate calls. We get literally just people saying like, hey, yes, I've owned this thing for 50 years and you want to have it? And we even get properties for free. Well, not very often, but about once a year we get a deal for free.
That's pretty cool. They're just tired of paying the taxes.
They're just tired of paying the taxes. They kind of don't see that in their mind the property hasn't gone much up in value. They're just tired of it. They gave it to their kids. The kids live in New York City. The property's in Texas, and they're just, yeah, I'm never going to go out there again. My dad bought something and back while we're driving through there or something, or he thought it was a good investment, and now who do we sell them? We sell them to the people I mentioned, or if it's a more rural land, we just sold 40 acres to somebody who just wants to ATV, camp.
Right.
Who doesn't want to have a ranch of 40 acres, right? I mean, lots of people want that, and take their camper, take their RV out there, build a cabin, and things like that. So. And because we can make it affordable, either by a wholesale price or with seller financing, they often sell very quickly.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. We just bought 8 acres for $10,000, and that was a steal. That was a steal. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I had a guy on the phone the other day, and we got to talking. He said, I bought this for years ago, years and years and years ago. And he said, I bought it online. He said, I've never been there, never seen it. And he said, I only think about it one time a year. You know when that is, right?
When the tax bill comes.
When the tax bill comes, right? That's exactly
right. So,
Jack, can you give us any of that list criteria that you guys look for?
So basically we're looking for properties between $10,000 and $100,000. That's our sweet spot. Now the numbers change. You can go above that, but the numbers change in terms of what we offer. Sure. We find that very few people are willing to take a $10,000 offer for a $200,000 property.
Sure.
Right. So when it's a property worth $200,000, you got to go offer 40, 30, 40, 50% of market value. But then you can go flip it for 60, 70% of market value and still make $20,000 on it. Right. So it's still a good deal in that case. And we just had one of our students buy a property for, was it like $28,000 and go flip it for $86,000. Wow. I mean, that's a good deal. We bought properties for $1,800 and sold them for $86,000. Also happened to be the same amount. But this is stuff that happens. also. But usually the moment you go above 100, you got to up your percentages that you offer. Then we offer, we like people, obviously, I mean, it's common things. It's like people that live out of state. We love, but it doesn't mean that the in-state people won't accept your offer. Just they want usually a little bit more money because they know the market a little bit better, and they are able to drive out there themselves, put a sign for sale by owner sign on there and sell it themselves. So in order to buy these deals from in-state people, you need to usually offer a little bit more money. Then if we have availability if we can access that information, we look at when is the last deed exchange happened, when did the last change of owner happened. We like properties that have been owned for a longer time, because it usually speaks, if they haven't done anything with a property for 25 years, then chances are they really don't, they're just holding on to it because they don't know what else to do with it, right?
Right.
And then that's part of it. And there's a couple of other things that we look at, like the size of the property plays a role. For example, if you go into the rural areas, you do not want to deal with it itty bitty tiny properties. Right? So like if you're like really in rural America, where people have 40-acre ranches, 80-acre ranches, or even 8 or 10-acre properties, which is enough to have, I mean, that's 8 football fields. You imagine Sunday night football, and you look at a football field, you imagine 8 of those next to each other. That's a lot of land, right?
Right.
And even that thing is a nice size for somebody who have a house, put a house on that, have some horses on there or something like that. But nobody's going to want a 1/4 acre in those rural areas.
Right.
But a 1/4 acre is like just enough to put a house on there and have a little backyard. And if you're in the rural areas, you want 5 acres minimum. So when we're in the rural acres, just from a selling point of view, like you can get 1/4 acres in the rural areas, but you're going to have a hard time selling them. And what I teach, when we teach our students, we teach this now just like you teach your methods. So our students, what we teach them is in the rural areas, go at 5 acres plus. If you can, even 10 acres plus, because it's you're gonna get a ton of deals, but also on the selling side, it's much easier to sell them because they're way more attractive than a 1/4 acre property somewhere out there.
That's a really good point. And you know, Jack, there's a huge market, especially right now, for recreational property. Can you touch on that a little bit? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, there's recreational. I mean, people have money, first of all. And when people have money, they want to go do fun stuff. And so there's this huge multi-billion-dollar industry for RVs, for ATVs, for dirt bikes, for camping, for all this kind of stuff. So it's this huge market for that. And obviously we're tapping into that because do people really want to stay with their RV in an RV park where I mean, there's RV walls are small, are thin, right? If the neighbor in the next RV over watches TV, you can't sleep at night, right? Right. RV, it's because you want to put it out there somewhere, and ideally not wildly put it out there, but put it on your own piece of land, put a fence around there. That's one way. The other way is that people like, they like to have a place on their own somewhere out there, so they like to put a cabin out there. So some of our buyers, they end up buying cabins or mobile homes up there, and they have a place to go out in the weekend. Then thirdly, it's also there's the doomsday prepper crowd, right? The doomsday preppers, they're worried about the depth of the country. They're worried about the different things that's going on about North Korea and things like that. So they're basically want to have a place that they can reach in an emergency situation that is ideally even off the grid. So people always ask me, Jack, what if there's area, they have no electricity, they have no running water to them, can you even sell those? It's like, yeah, you can, because there's an entire movement towards the tiny homes. There's an entire movement towards solar. Solar is more efficient now, and that people, they dig a well, they drill a well, they get solar, and they are completely off the grid and have the ability to basically stay there if an emergency situation comes up. And why I don't necessarily am a prepper, I don't really think we're going to have a situation like that. So I respect it, and I happily sell them properties at good deals.
That's really good, man. I love that. There is a huge demand for recreational property, especially right now. And everybody wants to go have their own spot, right? And like you said, the doomsday preppers too. The preppers, they want to have a place to go put their bunker, right?
But exactly. If they want to put a bunker on 10 acres, then go ahead. They can do whatever they want on those properties. So Yeah.
That's really good. That's good. So share with us a little bit about selling the property. How do you market these properties to sell?
Right. So we sell them by seller financing or wholesaling. So that the way we sell them, like the method we sell them, or the offer we make is either an absolute amazing half price cash offer. Because if we buy it at 20 cents, can we sell it at 50 cents on the dollar?
Right.
100%, right? Or it's a closer to market value seller financing offer. If you think about it, like that's how houses sell, right? Any house out there, most of the houses sell 10% down and a 90% loan from the bank. The only thing here is that in this case, houses, lenders, banks don't like to lend on land. So as a result, they don't give a loan on these, and there's no public market for these loans. So therefore, if they don't have the money, they're usually stuck by not being able to buy the property. Well, in our case, pardon?
It helps you, actually.
Yeah, it helps us, exactly, because now we can go and we can offer seller financing. And just like in the housing world, we don't have to actually sell the houses. We have to discount the houses. We don't have to discount the land here either by selling it with seller financing. So now how do we go about actually selling them? We're doing this online. We're just going basically on platforms like Zillow. We can list our properties on Zillow. We list our properties on landwatch.com. We list our properties on Craigslist, on Redfin. We list our properties on, if you have access to the MLS in your market, you can list it in the MLS in your market. It's anywhere else where other people also list their properties. And then obviously over time, if you build up your website, you can list it on your website. But even that's cool. Your first couple of deals, you don't need your own website. You can just go on Craigslist, Zillow, those kind of places. Facebook Marketplace is a huge place right now.
It really is. We generate a ton of leads on Facebook right now. All of the local groups, wherever we're selling property, as well as Facebook Marketplace. And you mentioned Landwatch too. Landwatch is a big one, isn't it?
Yes, Landwatch is huge. The Landwatch is kind of like the 800-pound gorilla of the land market. Like there's like several 100,000 properties being listed there on Landwatch in every county of the entire United States. And we even use Landwatch to even figure out before we go into a county if that county is a good county. Because if you see like in a specific county that there's 5,000 lots for sale at $3,000 a property, yeah, that's not necessarily the county you want to go into, because we're not bottom feeding here. We're looking for quality, good property. So you can look around in Landwatch. You can see, if you see that there's only a few hundred properties listed, and the majority of them is listed at $10,000 to $100,000. Well, that's your kind of county, right? And if you see that there's some sales results on Zillow and on the MLS that these areas have sold, then that's your kind of county, right? So that's how we go. So we really go very systematically at this, not just like randomly crazy, because the truth is, because it's land, you can do this from anywhere in the world. We literally have like about a dozen German students right now from Germany that do this in the United States. And one of them in particular has done like 35 deals already. He has never physically actually been in the United States himself.
Jack, I love it, man. I love it.
So,
virtual investing from around the world.
Right, because it's land. I mean, what are you going to go look at? Actually, I saw your Facebook post the other day, Larry, where you got stuck by looking at land. I felt bad for you, so I didn't post anything, but I wanted to go post. It's like, dude, what are you doing in the first place looking at the land in person? Like Google Earth and Google Maps is enough. You don't have to go out there. And the county website, you can see anything you need to see on that property. I haven't gone out to see any of my properties in 12 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, you got a right to bust my chops. The only reason I went to look at it was I was going to keep it for myself, right? And it wasn't too far away.
Okay, that makes sense. I figured there was a reason. I'm just like but I thought it was funny to see. It's like, because we did the same thing. We never got stuck, but we almost got stuck. I mean, the first few years we went out, look at these properties, and with our SUV, we were like literally driving on 3 wheels, and one was up in the air and stuff like that. And at some point of time, we're like, why are we doing this? Why are we looking at these properties?
Right.
everything we want to see on the county GIS website, the Geographical Information website, or on Google Earth or on Google Maps. There's no reason in the world we actually need to go out there. Now we don't go out there. Nobody in our team goes out there. And literally most of our students don't go out there. I mean, I got a student that's been doing this for 10 years. She has never seen a single one of her properties.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to ask you a question. Do you ever run into property that somebody's wanting to sell that may be landlocked? And if
yes.
so, what do you do about that? Because we run into that quite often.
Yeah. On landlocked properties, it depends how badly it's landlocked. What I mean by that is, like, let's say if the road is here and the property is just one property away from the road, then the first thing we'll do is we'll go contact the guy that has the road access and ask him to and see if he wants to buy the property. And in many cases, they'll buy it right there because they can double the size, and then the landlocked problem is removed because now it has a continuous property with the bottom being accessible to the road. Also, we also look at what would the property be. First of all, we subtract some value for the property. If the property regularly would be worth 50 grand, the fact that it's landlocked in our mind reduces the value by at least 50%.
Right.
So basically would put it down to $25,000. And then we'll go, we market it as an opportunity in that sense. Because the opportunity is that the reality is in the United States, by law, nobody can prevent you from accessing your property. So what it means is that you would have to go and ask the neighbor for an easement. And if the neighbor is nice, then the neighbor is going to get you the easement and everything is fine, letter written up, have a survey done, have a title company write up or have the surveyor write up the legal description for the easement, have the seller sign that easement, and it's done, and you have access to the property. If it's the seller, if the neighbor is not friendly, then you might have to sue him to get an easement, but the law will always prevail and will allow you some access to the property. The judge will have to just decide which is the best access to that property. So what we do is we do none of that. We don't get our own easements. We don't go through that process, but we basically sell it as either to the neighbor or we sell it as an opportunity by basically saying, listen, we are wholesalers, right? We're just going to flip this property as is, but here's an opportunity. This property as is worth 20 grand. Once you get the easement, it's worth 50 grand. So if you're willing to put in the work and get the easement, you can unlock $30,000 off this deal. So, and then that becomes an opportunity for somebody. And with that, we sell it fairly quickly because there's always going to be somebody who says like, well, I can do that. I can go through that process and unlock 30 grand for about a few days of work. That's a no-brainer. So they go do that. And we make our money because if it's worth only 20 in this case, we'll go pick it up for $2,000 or $3,000. We'll go sell it to him for 18 or so, or for 20 we sell a financing. He'll go out, the buyer, he'll go out, get the easement on it, make a $50,000 property out of it, and everyone is happy in the process.
That's good, man. I love it. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that. That was really good because we do run into that, and I know you have a lot of students that run into that too, and it's very important to know how to handle that. Do you sell many of your properties with seller financing on eBay? We do a lot of that, and they would bid for the down payment.
Yes, not that much anymore. So we still sell a lot of properties with seller financing. We love seller financing. I love cash flow. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we are doing. Like we're flipping land for cash and cash flow, and then we're taking that cash and cash flow and rolling it over into other asset classes to just hold on. That's why we buy apartment complexes right now, in addition to the land flipping, just to hold on what we call forever cash, right? Forever cash flow, cash that lasts forever. And so when we sell these lots, we either get cash or we get cash flow. And when we sell them, and I love the fact that when we sell them with seller financing, because we have so little money in the deal, even if we don't get all the money as a down payment, within a year, we got all the money back.
Right. So
yes, so we love cash flow. We probably sell 80% of our deals with seller financing. Now, our students right now, everyone decides on their own. I got students that have done 100 deals, have never done seller financing because they just want the cash. They need the cash. They might have to get out of debt. They might have to pay off student debt. They might have to pay credit card debt. They might have to want to pay off their house and so on. One of our students in a year and a half, he paid off his condo, paid off his cars completely debt free, right? So on the seller financing side, we love doing that. But do we use eBay? Not so much anymore. eBay is really kind of is not as good as it used to be. We do sell some of our cheapo properties on eBay occasionally. So some of the deals, what will happen when you do this is you find a deal that's worth 50 grand that you get on a contract for 8, and then you sell it for 30, right? You make a good $22,000 profit. But perhaps that owner often owns another 3 properties. They're only worth 5 grand. And in order to get the $50,000 property, you got to pick up the 5 grand properties too, but you pay them like $100 a piece.
Right.
So they just want to get rid of them. So now you pay $8,000 for this one, but you pay $8,300 and you get all 4 properties.
Good.
So now these other 3 properties, they're only worth 5. I don't want to put much effort in them, so I literally put them on eBay for like $3,900 with a $1 down payment, and the bidding is on and a $300 fee or so. And then if the down payment ends at $25, they end up putting $325 down, and they start making monthly payments. And that kind of deal still works on eBay.
Right.
And it's easy to do, and it's simple to do. Or sometimes I might just put them up on eBay for $1,000 cash, just sell them, get rid of them, and I make $900 on the deal, but I just don't have to mess with them for much longer, right? So these kind of deals work on eBay, but the big, more expensive deals, they currently and for several years have not worked on eBay very well.
That's really good. I'm glad you shared that. I haven't put a property on eBay in several years because I kind of noticed the same thing, but I just wanted to get your opinion about that as well.
Yeah, we used to sell it. We sold over 300 properties on eBay, but then it started changing and so on.
Yeah, that's good. I think Facebook is really what's hot right now.
Facebook, and within Facebook Marketplace is hot right now.
Yeah.
So you put something up on Facebook Marketplace, and if you do it the right way, which we're just adding a module to our course on how to do it the right way, literally your inbox, your messenger inbox blows up. We have some of our properties we put out there, we're getting like 50 responses on in like a couple of days. And yes, a lot of them are tire kickers, so you got to deal with them. But then we have a method to actually identify the tire kickers or separate the tire kickers from the serious people.
That's good. You got to do that. We get a couple hundred messages a week on Facebook, and it's hard to keep up with them.
Right. That's right. You almost at that point. But if you're at that level, I mean, that's a good problem to have. That's a luxury problem to have, right?
That's true. Man, Jack, I really, really appreciate you being on. This has been some great stuff. If somebody wanted to learn more about land deals and about yourself, how would they connect with you?
Well, they can simply go. We have a Facebook group called Forever Cash, Land For Pennies. And basically, because again, we're talking where a lot of our successful students are in there. And then you can also go obviously to our website, which is landprofitgenerator.com, and check us out there. And but on Facebook, we have built this group of people that are, a lot of our students hang out there, and they're super successful. And so there's a lot of exchange of how things work, and then people just helping each other from their in a giving way to succeed in the business.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for everything you shared. And guys, go check out Jack. Check out his website and connect with him. He's a good guy. He's got a good education business, and he's a real estate investor, just a great guy, great family man. And I think the world of him. That's why I got him here.
I forgot one thing. I also have a podcast, by the way. It's called the Forever Cash Life Podcast. So it's all about Forever Cash at the end of the day. So I forgot that. And actually, Michelle, you know her too. She came up with her own podcast too. So if you search Michelle Bosch or Jack Bosch, you'll find both our podcasts too.
That's great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. That's great. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So guys, thank you so much for watching this. Thanks, Jack, for being on. And guys, be sure and share this. If you're on Facebook, be sure and share it. Or write us a review, give us a review if you're on iTunes or whatever. And we really appreciate you guys watching this. Thank you so much. And if we can ever help you with anything, please be sure and reach out with us. We do have a partner program where we partner with people. You can go to larrygoins.com/apply to apply to work with us in our partner program. where you can come right here to my office and spend a few days with me. So thanks again, Jack. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next week.